Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla. I have Angie here with me today, and we're really glad that you were able to join us. As always, our goal is to talk about mental health related issues and hopefully start to end that stigma surrounding them. So, today we're going to talk about trichotillomania, but more specifically, instead of like what it is, we're going to talk about your specific journey, right? Because it's, the one thing that you shared with me is that there's so many people who have it who don't maybe have a name for it or don't realize that they're not the only one, or it's one of those things that nobody else knows about, so it's kind of like this big hairy secret, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm curious about your journey, and I also know that when people share their journey, other people will be like, oh my god, that's me too, or oh my gosh, I see a part of me in that journey, right? And we could all learn and benefit from understanding how things go. So
Mhm.
why don't you take us back to maybe the beginning when you first started picking, and maybe why. I mean, obviously looking back you have a better sense of why. Maybe start there, and then let's maybe lead us
Sure.
through what the process was.
Yeah, so the last time we talked, I spoke about it beginning in junior high, maybe freshman year, and I really truly don't know exactly when the onset actually happened or what the event was
Okay,
that caused it to happen.
so it
But I
wasn't like
do
there was one big traumatic event and then you
know
realized.
it came up for me, it came on very subtly, but I've spoken with people who struggle with this also, or the parent of somebody who struggles with it for their child. And I mentioned one day, you look perfectly fine, and the next day this particular girl pulled like almost everything except what was in the back.
Okay,
So it was traumatic for her. So I don't know what she didn't really know what it was in her mind either at that time
okay, so
that
that's
caused her
interesting.
to do that overnight like that. So something happened. She was fostering,
Okay,
so there was troubles from another life. For me personally, I grew up in an alcoholic home. So right then and there, it was like, whew, roller coaster.
so even though you can't pin in any particular event, the environment that gets created in an alcoholic home likely was
It could
what
have been
what
part of the,
added to the stress
yes.
that led to that. Okay, gotcha.
I really truly believe that that's true.
Right. It doesn't always have to unfold that
Yeah,
way, but you suspect that it probably played a role.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I come from a family of seven daughters, and nobody else in the family does this, just me. So we all
Interesting.
there's another thing about that is that we all process things differently, and we all,
Right.
can handle things differently, or we have different outlets. Maybe somebody will crochet, I pull my hair.
Yeah.
So, and I'm making light of it, which is not to be made light of, but I'm able to, at this point in my life, talk about it more fluidly and be more aware of it. But
But
I
that's a level of acceptance as well, right? Like this
absolutely.
is who I am, and so now that I've accepted that this is who I am, now I can make choices to help me. Right.
Absolutely, yes. I still haven't considered, I had said that I am undiagnosed. I have not considered going to speak with someone, a psychotherapist or any sort of psychologist, about it. I did participate in EMDR, and and that brought out something that I was able to rectify. It wasn't pertinent to this, but it cleared some space in my head from something else that was festering that I didn't even realize
Sure.
was
Okay.
there. But it was somewhat cohesive to what I'm dealing with
Okay.
this. But the first time I recognized it, I had gorgeous blonde long hair in eighth grade. I was looking at pictures and calling upon my best friend since I've been six, and looking at photos, looking at yearbooks, things like that. And I started wearing headbands because I was starting to pull right across the top of my head
Oh,
hair.
interesting. Okay.
And I wonder if psychologically, hindsight now, I knew that I could take something and put it there and make it go away
Yeah.
from the
So
world.
yeah. So whether you consciously realized you
Right.
were already hiding it, you were.
I was. I was
And
definitely hiding
I'm
it.
sure it wasn't those little tiny thin headbands either.
No, it was
Yeah.
those cloth ones. They're about this wide, and you stick them over your head, and then you bring them back up, and you
Yep.
poof the front a little bit, and long. Everybody had long hair back then. It was
Yeah.
in the 60s back
Yep. Yep.
then, going into the 70s. But so that's when it. really started, and there was something that triggered in me between 8th grade, freshman year, whenever that first um, um, hiding of this condition started, to wearing a wig, full blown wig,
Oh,
in high school. Yeah,
wow.
in high school. And then with that comes and it was not my color, it was much darker. It was going from having these headbands and I don't even know what else, because you kind of like think you kind of make yourself become invisible so that people aren't going to notice, or if I sit this way, or if I
But
do
wi-
this thing.
but a decent wig is expensive.
I don't even remember going to shop for it. There's just because I hated it. I didn't want to wear it. I knew I needed a cover because it was really bad.
And that was initiated by you.
I don't remember that either. It
Okay.
could have been my sister or my mother. I don't know. But I had gone to beauty shops. My cousin was a beautician, and my mom had a beauty shop where she went and got her perms all the time. And there was this rake with electricity going through it that they used to comb through to try and stimulate the growth. And for me, I'm sitting there doing it, and you taste it's maybe like radiation tastes. I don't have any experience with
Sure.
chemo or therapy, radiation therapy, but it would make me salivate, and I could taste the electric current in my mouth.
Wow.
It was horrible, and
So
and I'm
they're
sitting there.
looking at your hair saying, "Hey, she just has really thin hair. Let's stimulate the growth." And you're like, "Well, if you only knew, I'm pulling it all out. So as
Exactly,
fast as you try to make it grow, I'm pulling it out."
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what I was going to say, is that why are we doing this? Because I'm pulling it. If you stimulate the growth, we'll get the little new guys in there, but it's not going to help what's happening.
But
But
it's a
I
secret.
didn't,
So like
but
if
it's a
you said
secret.
that, then your secret would be out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, Dr. Carla, I don't even know if, if they knew. I don't
Yeah.
know if they didn't know. It wasn't like talked. And I came from a family, you don't talk about this, and that, and so you don't talk about your problems. You just don't. You don't. And so this whole thing, I'm so happy you're doing this, because ending stigma, and the reason I'm sitting here is because it's very healing for me doing this, and finally speaking about it. And there's healing on the other side of that sharing.
Well, I do know that in the world of cosmetology, hairdressers, barbers, etc., there's far more requirements for them to have um, training, understanding in various
Mhm.
mental health areas. But that's a newer thing.
Yeah,
It's not something that would have been around when you were
sure.
young. And what's interesting is that what would happen would be perhaps somebody would be better trained at this point to be able to recognize that.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, they also didn't know about it, so they couldn't, they're just saying, hey, well,
Hmm.
maybe this is what's going on with this, right?
Right. I'm happy to hear that, because you would think that if you're going to somebody, I never wanted to step foot in a beauty parlor, number one.
I'm sure.
Very, very seldom did I do that. And when I did, it was like, oh my gosh, I was just scared to death that I'd be found out. I was scared to death. What are they going to say? And I was ridiculed so extensively and bullied, verbally bullied by the girl. I went to an all-girl school, by all the other girls.
So, and the bullying was for a wide variety of things. So the hair would have been just one more thing.
I don't know if I was bullied for other than the hair, and I
Oh,
don't
so it
even
was specific to the hair.
specific to the
Oh, it
hair.
was.
Yeah,
Okay,
like
interesting.
laughing at me. Maybe that's not bullying, but that was
No,
very
that's laughing.
hurtful.
That's
Very,
bullying.
very hurtful to me, to be made fun of. And it was just very recently, within the last year or two, maybe, that one of my sisters, we went to the same school, of course, and I'm number 6 out of 7. She was number 7, and she just told me real recently that she stood up and wanted to beat people up for me, and
Yeah,
I never knew that because you didn't talk about it.
right.
Yeah, so much shame, and in all of it, yes, and we need to break that and break ourselves free of it.
Yeah. I'm so glad you shared all of these uh, behaviors that you went through where you were trying to hide, but more importantly, that, even looking back and as much work as you've done, there's still a lot of unknowns about, why didn't mom notice? Why didn't this? Why didn't that? How was it that it was okay to have a wig, or was it okay? Like, it's interesting how our minds work to
Hmm.
cover these things
And
up.
how much I shoved in the corner to not remember,
Sure.
because mom probably did, and my sisters certainly did, and people put brochures and things in my hands too.
Right.
They all went in this folder called TTM. It's really a very old looking folder, and I'm gonna go in that folder. I'm gonna go in that folder, and I'm gonna explore what's in there.
Right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So, I would say to anybody, if you're thinking about, like, oh, I do some of those things. I'm always wearing headbands, or I'm always experimenting with different ways to wear my hair because I'm trying to cover up something. If you see at all any part of you in Angie's story, please reach out to your medical doctor, to a mental health specialist, and get the help. Right? You're not alone. You don't have to live this way. So remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.